For the week 9, happy Halloween, everyone. We got the Thursday night football matchup, Houston Texans at New York Jets. Now, this one feels like the Jets desperately need a win. It already almost feels like their season's over, but if they lose tonight, their season is definitely over. I do think that the Houston Texans, without Stephon Diggs or Nico Collins, is still better than the Patriots that the Jets lost to last week. So, I do feel like the Texans will win. My only thing is, why would the Jets trade for Davante Adams just to get him 3 to 4 targets for 30 yards a game? That's what he's done the past 2 games. So I do think we can expect to see a more monstrous game from Davante tonight, but it still won't be enough to beat the Texans. Moving on to the next game, 1 o'clock window on Sunday, Cowboys at Falcons. Falcons are 4-1 in their last 5 games. Kirk Cousins has 1,480 yards and 10 touchdowns in that 5-game span. Meanwhile, Dak has 990 yards, 6 touchdowns. So I'm just going to go with the hotter quarterback and the hotter team taking Atlanta to win. Raiders at Bengals. Bengals will not lose back-to-back weeks. They already got blown out at home to Eagles. They're going to bounce back. If they lose, their season's over, just like the Jets. But this does not feel like a game they lose. They'll bounce back and beat the Raiders at home. First off, let's make this clear that Justin Herbert has 630 yards in his last 2 games. He's starting to look very comfortable in the new Harbaugh offense. And 2, let's not overreact to the Cleveland Browns win last week, just like we shouldn't overreact to the Baltimore Ravens loss. All right, we already know that individual games get a little wonky at times, especially in the AFC North. Browns Steelers always weird, Browns Bengals always weird, Ravens Steelers, it's always a little drunk, it's always a little lopsided. So let's not overreact to the Browns. It was clear that they wanted to play for their quarterback last week. They wanted to play for Winston, and that magic eventually fades. It wears off over time. You see teams want to play more fired up for their interim coach. Last week they wanted to play fired up for Winston, but that can't carry over the whole season. It's not sustainable. So we will see the Chargers crush the Browns' dreams. Their season's going to end this Sunday, and Herbert's starting to roll. Moving on to the Patriots at Titans. The Titans looked somewhat decent for the first half of the game last week against Lions. Second half was a blowout, but for the first half, Mason Rudolph, Calvin Ridley connection was real. So, the Patriots cannot win every game of the season with Jacoby Brissett and the power of friendship. Even if Drake May plays, I'm taking the Titans to win. Last week, Jaden Daniels was a true game-time decision, and yet he still outdueled Caleb Williams off a bye. Now, on the other hand, Brian Daboll squeezes the juice out of Daniel Jones every once in a blue moon, where Daniel Jones looks like a $40 million quarterback, but other times he does not look that way at all. So this does feel like a close divisional game this week, but just like the first time they met beginning of the season, the Commanders will win. I believe Derek Carr is coming back. Saints win. Broncos at Ravens. The Broncos and the Ravens, they both have the same record in their last 6 games. They're both 5-1, both faced and beat some pretty tough teams. This feels like one where the Broncos come into Baltimore and get steamrolled, just like Ravens steamrolled the Bills week 4 Sunday night. So this does feel like a Ravens win, but Bo Nix in the next 2 weeks faces Lamar and the Ravens, and then Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So we'll really get to see what Bo Nix is made out of, whether you believe in him or not. Jags at Eagles. The Eagles are one Saquon Barkley drop away from being 7-1. Saquon catches that ball 99 out of 100 times. And the only team they lost to besides that was the Red Hot Bucks, who we also saw beat the 7-1 Lions. So the Eagles are better than we think. Bears at Cardinals. This is a battle of the number 1 overall picks. Cardinals have won back-to-back games for the first time under head coach Jonathan Gannon. I think they go on and get their 3rd consecutive win in a close game. The Cardinals lead the NFC West. I don't know how sustainable that is. Meanwhile, the Bears are last in the NFC North. So Cardinals win in a close one. Lions at Packers. Here's a crazy mind-blowing stat. This is the first outdoor game of the Lions season. Halfway through the season, and it's their first outdoor game. It's going to be 40 degrees in Lambeau. It's going to be a little chilly. But if Jordan Love starts, I like the Packers, but it's looking like Malik Willis is going to start. Although they're 3-0 with Malik Willis, I would take the Lions to win this weekend in a close, tough, chilly divisional matchup. I really believe that last Thursday night football game was where we really saw the Rams season turn around. When Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp are all healthy and play together the entire game, they win 2 out of every 3 games. So they're a winning team when all 3 guys are healthy. I think that's where they turn the season around. They win the next 3 games, and they're 6-4 heading into Philly Week 12. Colts at Vikings. Joe Flacco is now the starter for the Colts. Here's an interesting fact, actually. Over the past 2 years, between the Browns and the Colts, Joe Flacco is 6-2 as a starter with 2,300 yards over an 8-game span, with 4 out of those 8 games being 300 yards consecutively. So 4 consecutive 300-yard games for Joe Flacco. We know he slings it, but although I like the Colts to keep it close, I think the Vikings do not lose their 3rd game in a row. It's in Minnesota. Vikings win a close, maybe a shootout in Minnesota on Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football matchup, Bucks at Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is 8-3 on Monday Night Football. Meanwhile, Baker is 1-6. So I think we see a lot more from D-Hop this game too. Coach Andy Reid said you're going to see a lot more from D-Hop. So Chiefs move on to 8-0. They're only picking up more defensive pieces from around the league. Meanwhile, the Bucks are only getting unhealthier. Chiefs move on to 8-0.